This video is going to be a little bit of a follow-up to last week's episode where we talked about hard work not equaling wealth. Now, hard work in itself is not bad, but hard work does not equal money, unfortunately. And that is something that I thought about, or I thought of, for a number of years. So in this talk, we're going to talk about what to work hard on. And where to put your focus. So, to give you a little story, when I was about 5 years old, my mother took me to a skating rink session, and I was homeschooled at the time, and it was a homeschool skate session, and I remember not even being able to stand up on my skates at all. Being so young. And she saw this flyer for speed skating classes that week that the owner of the rink was putting on. So she took me and my older brother to speed skating lessons that week. Well, that started probably a good 10 years or more kind of obsession of mine as a kid. And I was a roller speed skater, so I started out on quads, and then I went to inlines. Started out when I was 5 years old, like I said, and we did practice about 3 times a week. When I got a little bit older into the 10, 11, 12 era, got into doing a little bit of some outdoor skating. Never got into ice, unfortunately. But I got pretty good, and I got to 4th in the nation within my age bracket, and I was very accomplished. My brother was really good at it. My mom was pretty good at it, and we worked really, really hard on it. We put a lot of effort into it. My little brother and sister got into it later, didn't really get into the competitive side of it as much as I did. But it was something that I put all my, time and energy into. Now, even as much time and energy as I put into that, I could have put more. I look back on that, and I remember my coaches saying that I had potential to go farther, and I wasn't quite motivated enough to take it to the next level at that age. But I did work really hard on it. Well, fast forward, 10, 20, 30 years from there, I kind of have a fairly unique life, I guess you could say. I've lived a unique life. I've raised buffalo. I've competed speed skating at a really high level. I've just done some interesting things, I guess you could say. But here's the interesting thing that I started noticing in my late 20s, early 30s, was I've lived a very unique life, and I've worked really hard at those very unique things, but my bank account was extremely small back then. So, why is that the case? Well, I came to the hard realization that what you work hard on is not necessarily translate into the bank account, right? So if you were to say, I am the best green grass collector in the state of Kansas, what is that going to do to translate over to your bank account? If that's your goal. If your goal is to get ahead financially, if your focus is on something like collecting green grass or speed skating in my case, or buffalo in a certain way, is that going to get you to your goals? Now, if I look back on it now and I think, was there a way to monetize that into a passion, take my passion into something that was going to make substantial amounts of money? Absolutely. I'm sure most of you guys know of a guy called Apollo Ono in the Olympics. Well, Apollo Ono has done very well for himself by basically creating a name. He's gotten sponsorships. He has sold products. He has done really good at monetizing that same thing that I used to do. And believe it or not, Apollo Ono, you can look him up. He was one of the fastest ice short track speed skaters. He came from roller, so he did exactly the same thing I did. And all I would have done, and he's very similar to age that I am now, all I would have had to do is to say, okay, I really like doing this thing, speed skating. Maybe I'll pivot to ice, because same thing virtually. There's some slightly different techniques on ice as opposed to roller, but there's a ceiling when it comes to roller, and I was almost at the ceiling. Basically had 3 more people to pass to get to the top spot. Well, the top spot, I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Tucker. He did not at all was able to translate that into like what Apollo Ono did, because the ceiling for roller speed skating got you maybe a sponsorship at the top spot for like your skates and your wheels and your bearings and maybe some bags and different things like that, and maybe some travel money to pay for your meets and practices, but they didn't really pay the bills. So if I had the foresight enough back then, which I was really young, but if I would have had the foresight to say, let's pivot this thing I'm really good at and I have a passion for, let's take this into ice. Well, where can you take ice? Well, you can go all the way to the Olympics in ice. Well, where is the Olympics viewed? Worldwide. It's literally every single country watches the Olympics. So all the eyes are on that race. Well, what can you do with that kind of notoriety? Well, you can get big name sponsorships. You can get your face on the Wheaties box. So you can take it in a different direction. Similarly, in different fields, you'll find this in the same way. You know, there's guys out there that have a collection of Legos or action figures, you know, in their basement, and they say, "Well, I really like having that collection." But if it's just a hobby and you're really good at the Star Wars, you're the best builder of Star Wars Legos action figures or whatever genre you want to pick, you can be the best in that field, but you can be completely broke. And you can be falling through on all your promises, not being able to pay your bills, not being able to take care of yourself, not being able to take care of others, but you're really good at this one passion. But then why not take, this is one strategy, but why not take that one passion and figure out a way to monetize it, to make it to where it is a good living, so you're able to do both. That's what I could have done just with that one speed skating. Now, you can translate this to anything. And this is what I've really just learned in the last probably 8, 9, 10 years, is to try. Hard work in itself there's nothing wrong with it. But just saying, if I work really hard on this one thing, that's the path to making a good living, is wrong. And unfortunately, that's the mantra, or that's what's painted out there. I'm sure you've heard it said, but I know for me, growing up, I heard it so many times, was, you tell somebody what you're doing and they say, well, just work really hard on it and you'll probably make a really good living at that. Or, you tell them what your job is, and man, just be a really good worker and you'll probably make a lot of money. That didn't translate at all. I worked really, really, really hard on speed skating. Got to one of the top, I was literally the 4th fastest in the nation of my age bracket at the time, and I never saw a dime. I never got a sponsor. My parents shelled out thousands of dollars for me to have the boots, the blades, the bearings, the wheels. It was kind of an expensive sport. All the practices, all the meets that I went to. So all that happened was money going out and nothing coming in. Really hard work, but it wasn't work done in the correct manner. It wasn't like that saying goes, working smarter and not harder. So, what to put your focus on then? Well, should we just chase after the dollar with everything? Should you put a money sign on every single thing that you do? No, you shouldn't. That's not the way I don't believe that we were designed by our Creator to be. I believe that God designed us to build things. We are made after His image. We call Him the Creator, and it says that we are made after His image. So the natural thing for us to do is to design, to create, to build. But should we put dollar signs on every single thing of that? No. I don't believe that that's the case. That being said, though, if you are doing something that is your passion, that you love to do, and you really want to be a hard worker on that, and you really want to just dive into it, what I want to know is, are you letting those things go, the dollar signs that need to be taken care of, your family, your finance, your personal finances? Are you giving? Are you letting all those things go so that you can be a really hard worker at this thing? And that goes for everything. That goes for your job, believe it or not. Are you the hardest worker at your job? Well, that could be a good thing, or it could not be. Because if you're the hardest worker at your job, but yet you're still failing to take care of your responsibilities and everything that God has designed you to take care of, well, you've put your focus in the wrong spot. Maybe you need to work harder on something different than your job in order to bring this up. Everybody has this mindset, and I used to have the same mindset, is in order to bring my bank account up, in order to fulfill my promises and my obligations, I just need to drill down and I need to look at my job and I need to work as hard as I can on that and be the hardest worker as I can on that. And when I am the hardest worker on that, my bank account will follow. It does not follow it. You can be in a job that when you work extremely hard on it and when you work overtime hours, when you really pour yourself into it, your bank account can come up. But it's not always the case. It's not Newton's law. It's not gravity. It's not something that is just a guarantee. So if you're spinning your wheels and you're saying, I'm working 40 hours a week, I'm going to try to jump to 60 hours a week, or I'm going to try to jump to 80 hours a week to fix my bank account or to fix all these bill problems. Really sit down and do the math on it. And not just math on, say, if I go from 40 hours to 60 hours a week, I'm going to get time and a half for those 20 hours. No. Figure out what the government's going to take out of those 20 hours. Because more often than not, it's a hard thing to swallow, but working those 20 hours overtime is not worth it. Because the government will take out so much money out of those 20 hours because you're now in another tax bracket, that if you would have just taken those 20 hours, work your 40-hour minimum, and then take those 20 hours and apply that to maybe starting a business or apply that to a different idea, almost 9 times out of 10, I would say, everything that I've experienced and everything that I've looked around and seen everyone else experience is you will end up in a better spot financially, and not just financially, but a better future for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for the people around you, if you put that extra time into something that you will see down the road. I have applied this to my own life. When I was about 30 years old, I tried applying this to different avenues, and I'll speak from experience that it does work. The things that I talk about here, I'm for the most part, 9 times out of 10, I'm speaking from something that I've already done. And if it's something that I haven't already done, I'll try to tell you that. So I don't try to just blow smoke up your chimney and give you all these ideas that I've heard about and I've never tried. I don't want you to be misled and to be able to pick up an idea and then just translate it over to you for content. I'm not trying to just make content here. I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to help you out because I was in the same spot that you were one day. I was to the point to where I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and I didn't have anything to my name, and all I had was debt behind me, and I had lawsuits behind me, and it was just a disaster. Fortunately, I'm on the other side of it, and no, I am not a multi-millionaire. We're on our way. We'll get there. It's not necessarily something that I have to get there either. If God allows it, we'll go that direction. But the focus needs to be on working as hard as you can and taking all the opportunities that God's given you in front of you. I might have talked about it before, but there's a parable that Jesus says, and he says something to the effect of, I'll summarize it. A man who was wealthy, a master, he gave money to 3 different servants. And to one servant, he gave, I believe it was 5 talents. Okay, a talent was a measurement in biblical times. It was I believe it was a Hebrew talent. Okay, so it was a measurement of gold. Gave 5. And to the second one, he gave, I believe it was 2 or 3 talents. And to the third, he gave 1 talent. He left on a trip, and he entrusted those talents, that money, to him, to those 3 servants. He left on the trip, and he came back sometime later, and he said, what have you done with the talents that I've given you? And the one with 5 talents said, Master, I have taken your money, I have invested it, and now I have 10 talents that I give back to you. And he said, well done, good and faithful servant. And he went to the second one, and it was the same thing. He had 2 or 3 talents, and he doubled it to 5 or 6 talents, something like that. And then he went to the first one, and he said, the 1 talent that I gave you, what have you done with it? And he said, Master, because you were a hardworking man, and I knew that you, there was something to the phrase that you collected where you did not sow. Basically telling him that he was an extremely hardworking man, and he collected off of things that he didn't necessarily work for. So he's like gleaning opportunities that people were losing. So he's saying, because you are that type of person, I knew you wouldn't want me to lose this talent. So I took that and I buried that talent. And I pulled it out of the ground, and now that you're back, here's your 1 talent back. On the surface, that parable makes it look like, well, what's wrong with that? He took what he had and he just gave it back, right? He didn't squander it. But what he said next was that he was a fool. He said, take the 1 talent away from that servant and give it to the one that has 10. Give it to the one that has 10, because he took the opportunities. This is kind of to summarize what he was saying. He took the opportunities that I gave him and he doubled it. And the one that I gave only a small opportunity, like I gave the guy 5 talents and he doubled them to 10, and I gave the one guy 1 talent and he couldn't even double it to 2. Now, when I was a kid, I remember I used to hear that story, and I was like, okay, that's a nice story. But I didn't know what a talent was. Well, recently, in the last 6 months or so, I found out what a talent was. Do you know what it is? It's very fascinating. It puts in perspective that parable differently for me. So a talent was somewhere in the nature of 65 to 75 pounds of gold. Now, it could be measured in silver too, but in this case, 65 to 75 pounds of gold. Do the math on that. 16 ounces in a pound, and gold is somewhere in the nature of $1,900 to $2,000 per ounce right now. Gold has translated almost the exact number as far as value goes throughout history. So literally, 1 talent would have been worth approximately $2.2 million. So the one guy, when you look at it in that perspective, the parable basically means I have given you something that is so valuable. This isn't 2 pennies. This isn't $1. This isn't $10. I gave you $2.2 million, and you couldn't even put it in the bank to collect some money as far as interest goes because you knew I was a hard worker. You just buried it, so you wasted all the opportunities that I gave you. And that is where we're at. The whole parable of the talents is to show us the opportunities that God has given us. Now, it goes beyond finances. It goes to, sorry, it might get a little loud here. Got a helicopter coming. It goes beyond finances. It can go to your health. It can go to your family. It can go to your friends. It can go to helping kids in orphanages. What opportunities have you been given? But on the subject of money and on the subject of finance, if you have been given those opportunities to take care of your family, to try to become wealthy so that you can help others, have you squandered them? And for me, for my first 30 years, I can confidently say, yes, I did. I squandered them. Now, once I turned somewhere around 30 years old and my mind changed, no. I have been working as hard as I can in the right way. Maybe it's not the way that I always should, but trying to do the right things, not just working hard, but working in the right avenues to double my talents that I've been given. That's what I challenge you all to do, is take the talents that you've been given, take the opportunities that you've been given, and double them. Work hard on the right things and not just on everything. My name is Noah Gordon. We'll see you next time.